There is a moment during anesthesia when your heart is beating, your brain is active, and your body is still responding to the world. But the continuous experience you call you appears to vanish, not fade, not drift, vanish. Then hours later, it returns with no memory of being gone. Neuroscientists can measure parts of this process. What they still cannot fully explain is why the missing time feels like nothing at all. Picture the usual scene. A mask lowers over your face. Someone asks you to count backward from 10. 10, 9, 8. Then you are somewhere else. The operation took 3 hours. Nurses moved around you. Machines tracked your breathing, oxygen, blood pressure, and heartbeat. Your body remained in the room for every second. But from the inside, the 3 hours may feel shorter than a blink. Most people call this sleep because sleep is the closest comparison we have. Your eyes close. You stop answering. You wake later. That explanation is convenient. It is also incomplete. General anesthesia is not one single effect. It is a controlled medical state assembled from several jobs: preventing awareness, blocking pain, limiting movement, and preventing memories from forming. Different drugs may handle different parts of that job, and they do not all act on the brain in exactly the same way. There is no hidden anesthesia switch behind your forehead. There are several chemical routes into several altered states. Take propofol, the milky white drug often used to make a patient become unresponsive quickly. It strengthens inhibitory signaling in the nervous system. Other anesthetics act through different receptors and produce different electrical patterns. But many of them appear to share one important result. They disrupt communication. The brain does not simply go silent. Local regions can remain active. Sensory systems can still react. Neurons continue producing electrical signals. What changes is the ability of distant regions to exchange information in the flexible, coordinated way that normal conscious experience seems to require. Imagine an orchestra where every musician still has an instrument. The violins are playing. The brass section is playing. The percussionists are still moving, but they can no longer hear one another. The conductor's signal arrives too late. Each section becomes trapped in its own rhythm. Sound continues, but the orchestra stops producing one piece of music. Under anesthesia, parts of the brain may still be doing their jobs. They are just no longer doing them together. That helps explain something strange. A sound can reach the ears. Activity can appear in a sensory region. The body may even show a physical reaction, but none of that guarantees a conscious experience of hearing the sound. Registration is not the same as awareness, and this creates a problem. From the outside, doctors can test whether you respond to your name, follow a command, move, or react to stimulation. Those are useful signs. They are not a direct window into what it feels like inside your mind. A patient who does not respond may have no experience at all, or the brain may be producing a dreamlike inner world that is disconnected from the operating room. In rarer situations, some information from the room may become part of experience, even though the person cannot respond normally. 3 states. No experience. An internal experience disconnected from the room, or some awareness connected to the room. From the outside, those states can look almost identical. That is why unresponsive does not always mean empty, but awareness is only half of the mystery. The other half is memory. To feel that time has passed, your mind does not need an internal clock ticking in the background. It needs one moment to connect to the next. A thought happens. Then another thought follows it. An event leaves a trace. The next event attaches to that trace. That chain becomes your timeline. Anesthetic drugs can break the chain from 2 directions. They can reduce conscious access to what is happening, and they can interfere with the systems that turn new experiences into lasting memories. Those are not exactly the same thing. Ordinary sleep makes the difference easier to see. During a normal night, the brain cycles through recognizable stages. Its networks change, but they do not remain in one drug-controlled pattern. You can dream. You can shift position. A sound can pull you toward waking. The sleeping brain is not simply less conscious than the waking brain. It moves through several kinds of consciousness and responsiveness. Anesthesia is engineered for a different purpose. The goal is not rest. The goal is to make an invasive procedure possible without conscious suffering, dangerous movement, or a lasting memory of the event. That is why an anesthesiologist does not merely give one drug and wait. The state is actively managed as the procedure changes. More stimulation may require a different balance. Blood pressure can shift. Breathing may need support. The patient's age, health, and medications all affect the plan. What looks from the outside like one long, motionless sleep is actually a controlled process being adjusted minute by minute. And the brain is not crossing one clean boundary. It is moving through levels. A person might process a voice without creating a memory of it. A short dream might occur and disappear before it can ever be reported. A fragment of experience might exist briefly, then leave no record behind. By the time the patient wakes, there may be nothing available from which the missing interval can be rebuilt. The time did not speed up. Your mind failed to leave footprints inside it. This is why 3 hours can feel like 0 seconds. Think about a strip of film. The frame before anesthesia is still there. The first frame after waking is still there. But the section between them was never recorded clearly enough to play back. When consciousness returns, the two surviving frames touch. 10, 9, 8. Recovery room. The operation happened. Your body experienced its physical consequences, but the event never became part of your remembered life. Research distinguishes awareness from later explicit memory, and scientists continue investigating whether subtler forms of processing can sometimes survive anesthesia without conscious recall. There is a darker exception, and it reveals how separate these systems really are. Accidental awareness during general anesthesia is rare, but it can occur. Some patients later report voices, pressure, movement, or other parts of the procedure. The risk varies with the patient, the operation, the drugs being used, and the medical situation. This does not mean patients should expect to wake during surgery. It means anesthesia is not a single wall that is either standing or broken. It is several protections working together. Anesthesia teams continuously watch breathing, oxygen, circulation, temperature, movement, and other signs. In some cases, they also use electrical brain monitoring, but no machine displays consciousness itself. An EEG measures electrical patterns through the scalp. It can show rhythms associated with certain drugs and levels of responsiveness. Processed monitors can compress those signals into a simpler number. Useful? Yes. A mind reader? Not even close. Different drugs create different patterns. Age and illness change the signals. A brain can produce activity without producing a reportable experience. The number on a monitor is evidence. It is not the person inside the brain. And then comes the return. Waking from anesthesia is not always induction played backward. As drug levels fall, brain networks begin communicating more freely. Arousal systems regain influence. Responsiveness returns. Attention, reaction speed, memory, and clear orientation may recover on different timelines. The system comes back in pieces. In one multi-center study, healthy adults received general anesthesia for 3 hours and completed repeated tests after they regained responsiveness. Researchers expected complex executive abilities to recover last. They did not. Some higher-level abilities returned surprisingly early, while attention and reaction speed followed their own schedules. Brain dynamics between frontal and parietal regions also began returning toward normal around the recovery of consciousness. The brain did not restart from one central button. It rebuilt the conditions needed for a world to appear. First, isolated signals, then wider communication, then the room, then your name, then you. This is what makes anesthesia more than a medical tool. It is also one of the strangest experiments neuroscience can perform on consciousness. The brain remains physically present. Blood keeps moving. Cells remain alive. Many local circuits continue working. Yet the ordinary experience of being in a world can disappear. So what was actually removed? The leading answer is not simply brain activity. A brain can be active without supporting normal consciousness. What appears to matter is the pattern, how widely information can travel, how many regions can influence one another, and whether separate signals can be combined into one flexible, unified state. Anesthesia changes that pattern. Slow rhythms can divide activity into brief windows. Distant regions can become less connected. The range of possible brain states can shrink. The message may arrive. The network never assembles it into, "I heard that." This explains how small islands of processing can survive while the person-level experience built from them disappears. The brain is still doing things. It is no longer doing them together in the same way. But even that answer is unfinished. Different anesthetics alter the brain differently. Some people report dreams. Others report nothing. Different brains lose responsiveness at different concentrations. Scientists still debate which patterns are necessary for consciousness and which are only associated with it. Anesthesia reveals the machinery by interrupting it. It does not point to one final place where the self lives. Every attempt to find one simple switch runs into the same problem. Consciousness looks less like an object stored in the brain and more like an event the brain keeps creating. The cells matter. The signals matter. But the connections between them may matter just as much. Interrupt those connections, and the material remains while the experience disappears. Restore them, and the world returns. Your eyes open. A nurse says your name. The room assembles itself around you before you fully understand where you are. The last thing you remember is counting backward, even though an entire sequence of real events now sits between that memory and this one. Your body traveled through those hours. Your conscious timeline did not. So the strangest part of anesthesia is not that medicine can make you sleep through surgery. It is that medicine can temporarily separate a living brain from the continuous experience of being someone. The cells remain alive. The clock keeps moving. The world continues without waiting for you. And from the inside, there is nothing to count. Then the connections return. The room comes back, and so do you. Thanks for watching.